Hello. How are we doing today on this Vlog Thursday number 451, Storage, Virtualization, and Homelab Q&A? There's this pause all the time because there's always something. And now when you click go live, I use a tool called StreamYard. There's another go live button. So if you click it, it goes away. You click it again, it comes down. But then it has two go live buttons. It's a UI thing. And I'm looking at it going, I thought, why am I? Yeah, oh, that's why I'm not live. So now I'm live. Just staring at it, like waiting for the counter to go up. Fun stuff for sure. We'll start really quickly with a little bit of errata because sometimes these things are happening. And when those things are happening, you just kind of go with it, and it's serendipitous because I decided, for those of you that maybe don't follow the vlog, I like motorcycles. It's a little hobby of mine. I went out to a motorcycle show, but where it became kind of weird and serendipitous here is I seen an airplane fly over my head. And I was like, hey, that's an interesting old C-47 plane. And I just thought I'd share this with people because there's at least a few of you that I'm sure probably like planes as well. And yeah, it flew over my head. I decided to go follow it. So I did. And there's the plane. And a few pictures later, let me jump to the right photo. Tom is in the plane, flying around. So it was, yeah. And I even got to sit in the navigator seat. So kind of novel. I got to fly in an 80-year-old C-47. It was definitely an interesting experience for sure. But yeah, they let me sit up here in the navigation. They were letting us all just walk around in there, walk around on the plane and fly around. I thought it was cool. You can see it down there. I just thought I'd start with a little bit of errata. Nothing to do with today's topic. It was just something novel that I was in a plane. I thought that was cool. Yeah, I could have went live from the plane because they weren't flying that high. So I still had cell phone service. And all they did was I messaged my wife a picture of the plane. I said, I'm getting in an 80-year-old plane. Make sure my insurance is paid up just in case. So fun times. All right. Oh yeah, someone recognized it. Yeah, it was old plane. So woohoo. C-47. Hello from France. You got a Pixel 10. Awesome. You know, I've just been doing the odd number pixels, and that just has been working for me because I didn't really look. I'm sure there's something about the phone I have the 9, and I'm sure the 10 is better in some way, but I don't know if there's enough compelling reason for me to do it. So I'll wait till the 11 comes out. That way I just get one every other year. Why waste the extra money? I don't know. It is going well, Dakota. I will be catching up with you. I was out and about, not only on planes. Some of you may have seen on my channel before, my friend, Cybermat Lee, as easy way to find him. Look up Cybermat Lee. He's a cybersecurity expert and just all around fun guy. Me and him were hanging out kind of on vacation for a few days. He came up from a different state with some motorcycles, and me and him did some off-roading. So that's one of the reasons there's not been any videos for a few days is took a little bit of time off to go do that. Always good to have some fun. Very cool. Yeah. You know, you can go to some of those local, smaller municipal airports, and this particular place had, it was an event they were having for the old planes, and yeah, for a fee, you could go ride on a plane. It was really cool. Yeah, I'm not ready to buy a plane. I think they're cool, but I don't really want to own one. I'm fine on motorcycles. That's usually my happiness there. With the new UniFi hosted OS, have you heard any other apps planned to be released, or is it too early to tell? I don't expect. I just kind of say the Protect app's not likely. That's the easiest way to say that. I just don't feel that they're going to do that with the Protect app. I could be wrong. I mean, cool if they prove me wrong on that, but I don't see that particular one getting there. So I don't really know. I haven't really taken the time just yet to set up the new hosted app because I've been busy with a few other projects, but I love where they're going with it. I think it's pretty cool. How reliable is TrueNAS set up on a workstation with 10 HDs again and a ProLiant server with a physical RAID card? Well, first, don't use a physical RAID card. That would not work with TrueNAS. That is your first issue. You want something that's JBOD where it just has direct access to all the drives. So just a standard card that makes them all accessible is the ideal situation. In that situation, ZFS and the good coding around TrueNAS, but the ZFS is what really gives you the resiliency. You can have your data and set the parity level, ZFS 1, 2, or 3, 3 being ideal for, maximum resiliency, but not maximum optimized storage. How's that? But I have videos on ZFS and things like that to dive deeper into it. But the reliability overall with TrueNAS, I once in a while, someone did leave a comment that they really don't like TrueNAS and they can't believe that I promote this absolutely garbage software, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay. But most people like it. I like it. I trust it with a lot of my data. Actually, I trust it with all of my data. I mean, I have data in many places, but the data for my YouTube channel is all stored on a TrueNAS storage server, and I do so confidently. It's actually stored across 2 here at my office and 2 at other offices. So they're all synced up to each other. Just so I have servers in places, so why not replicate it all over the place? Where can I buy a cheap Dell R30 for my Homelab? eBay is going to be the cheapest. Obviously, there's some sketchiness. If you're looking for someone who gives you a warranty, I've partnered for years now with Tech Supply Direct. There's a discount code you'll find in many of my links, gives you a few % off. But eBay is going to be cheaper, just in general. Cheaper than that is looking around. And I know this is a little bit more sketchy, but there's Facebook Marketplace. Craigslist might still exist. I don't look at Craigslist much anymore. I imagine it's still around. But Facebook Marketplace. There's also, if you're lucky, a recycling places that sometimes offer certain amounts of hardware for sale, and some of the universities, at least the ones here. I don't know where you are from, but at least some of the universities here sometimes sell used equipment as well. I am close to about a 45-minute drive from the University of Michigan, and the university does have, I believe they still have a whole program of selling all kinds of, not just computer equipment. They actually sell a lot of used equipment. So those are different places you can find things. But yeah, sometimes you can get lucky though, in people, because they don't want to deal with the shipping, because the shipping's heavy. If you can find someone within reasonable amount of drive. I actually had someone, we just picked up R640s, not 30s, for a really reasonable price. Someone local messaged me because I knew them. They were in my friends list on Facebook, and they messaged me like, "Hey, Tom, you probably know someone who wants these." I'm like, "I actually do." And they got rid of them for relatively cheap. Okay, so Craigslist is so right. It's been years since I've looked on Craigslist. I remember looking a while back, and there was just nothing on there for what I was looking for. There was just a lack of, I think it was when I was trying to buy, well, the only 2 things I really look for on Craigslist: campers or motorcycles. I'm done. I bought a camper, so I'm done with that part now. I'm happy with the camper I have. But motorcycles, nah, that's a whole other problem. How about the duplication of the Hetzner Cloud big couple of TB Oracle did try? I'm not 100% sure your question here. Are you asking about moving your data over to Hetzner? I don't know their pricing, so I'm not exactly sure what question you're asking here. Oh, you haven't looked at Craigslist since they got rid of the adult ads. Well, hey, it had that. So that's the thing. This is where did I drag that window? That's always fun. I had to drag it over here now, but I got to find out where. Oh, that's not good. Well, my windows got stuck. Oh, there they go. Let me just pull this up here. I am working on a project that some of you may be interested in. Well, that's not good. Oh, there it is. Okay. I've lost all my documents for a minute. I was like, where did they all go? Will I build a lab in my camper? I currently don't. I generally go offline when I go camping. I like to read books, and I will have my phone with me, but I don't necessarily need Wi-Fi. So a few people ask me, I'm gonna get Starlink, and I'm like, no, I don't really need internet because when I go camping, it's just to read a book and be quiet and learn something. It's a focus time for me, and I don't really, so I don't know that I'll build a lab in there. I don't watch TV or anything in there. I will bring my, because like replying. I try to reply to emails each morning. If I'm away for several days, or at least my forums, I make sure I just like keep in communication, reply, and I don't like typing it on my phone. So other than having a laptop with just enough access from my hotspot to get email, I'm fine. And then sometimes on places where I don't have that, whatever, I'm offline for a couple days. Uh, your home staff duplicating through the Oracle, so you have home and cloud handy. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I have more than one building, more than one physical location I have access to. Therefore, I don't I got rid of all my backblaze. I used to store things in backblaze, and I don't store things there anymore because it just isn't necessary. I didn't need the expense because I have other locations. But if you don't, and you don't happen to have an extra building, because not everybody does, I get that. You don't have a friend where you can keep it, then probably the two places that are reasonably priced are Backblaze and Storage. Now, you might be in a European market because you're asking about Hensner. That I don't really, I don't know their pricing or how that translates in pricing to storage, like if there's a better option or not. What I'm working on right now, though, this is a project that's going to be a video pretty soon. It's a tool called Grist. I'm going to give them a little shout out that I'm playing with it because this is just cool. It is a interesting tool that's spreadsheets, but much cooler. Like it's got some, it is a spreadsheet system. And you're probably thinking, but hey, I already got, insert name of spreadsheets. But this is a little different because it's built for dynamic teams to run. And I'm still working on all the ways to present it, but I wanted to set it up and play around with it. And I also wanted to dump a whole lot of data into it. Like, why not put, what is that, 89,000 records in here of just some random data I pulled off of Wikipedia and see how it performed, or play around with this idea. They have different widgets so you can build maps of things and have pictures of things. It's just got a fun way to play with it here. And yeah, make this bigger so you can put some plots on here, put things, be able to go through them. But it's a spreadsheet that works more. It's almost like a database. It's going to be pretty cool when I have the video done, because this is dead easy to set up. Like you can host with them. They have an option. You can self-host it, which is what probably most of you want to do. But if you have a lot of data sets and you want to start building links across those data sets, it is a similar way to, let me actually find one of them that shows the link better. Probably the task management would show that. So you can go here, let's say by person. So we have, Tom Lawrence, and let's fix Tom's name to call him just Tom Law. There we go. But it lets you do linking very similar to a relational database. So it gives you these options to do this in real time. So we'll use a Tom Law here, and we'll do another one for Tom Law. But just like a relational database, I can go, no, that person's got a different name. We're going to go fix it again. And instead, it'll then update this. I know people go, Tom, you're just showing relational databases. Yes, but it's a little different than that. I'll break that down better when I do the video. Hold on. Let me drop a link to everyone. It's getgrist.com. But I'll be doing a video on it because it's a cool thing. You get it set up in Docker. It's just a really powerful way to build. Like, what is Chris? They say it better in theirs. It's a spreadsheet, it's an app builder, and it's a database, kind of all in one. It's got the simplicity of a spreadsheet, functionality with their widgets that give you apps, and then you have the database side of it where you can build dynamic things. And yeah, this is just Get Grist. To make sure I put it in here. Yep, getgrist.com. Really cool though. Just I'll be doing a video on it. Maybe if I get it done tomorrow. I've been setting it up and playing with it because I've been trying to break it. That's why I put 89,000 records in it. I just wanted to see what would happen, but I think it'll probably work for a lot of you. Now, this can be integrated into more things. It does have like APIs. It has teams that you can set up. So I've set up a Lawrence Systems team to manage, and I've also got a user in here. What was the other one? Is it Book Club? Investment Research. Shows some of the rich text and information. Breakdowns, comparisons, but then it's all view as code. So you can view this as code to edit it. You have a whole document history. You can just look at the raw data for any particular thing. So go back to the spreadsheet. And then you build this kind of overview. And I don't have a way to show it, but this is real-time collaborative. So if someone is editing this and someone else is editing it with you, you get to see everything in real time as it happens. It's just a really neat feature. It's interesting talking to them when I met with them, and I learned about the product from my friends over at Vates of XCP&G. They use this on their back end for project tracking and data tracking and all kinds of fun stuff where you need a spreadsheet for this. So it kind of lets you quickly build something. They've got great documentation, which is, of course, what really matters. And these are all templates. I didn't sit down and learn the whole system. That would have been hard. I started with baby steps and imported a few files because these are all files they give you. And then I imported more files. So this is something I want to throw on people's radar. Just really cool thing. It's open source, by the way, so you can host it. They do have an enterprise offering that costs a few dollars if you want to support them with the enterprise. It's not crazy expensive. There's a couple extra features that would probably really only they're not that necessary for the Homelab, but they're cool features if you want them. I thought it was cool though. At least it's all open source and free for I think they call it the core edition. So there's a lot you can do with it. Sharing content when being on the road. Do you do it over Cloudflare or WireGuard VPN? Currently I'm using NetBird. NetBird has been one of my go-tos for a while for the overlay VPN. I've got videos on overlay VPN. I think it's a great way to solve things. NetBird is an open source one that you can self-host yourself. What are your thoughts on Zimbra Open Source Edition? I have it installed along with Ubuntu servers in small environments, but never in large ones. I haven't. How is Zimbra being kept up? I'll ask that question because I don't know the answer. Is that still maintained or? Okay, it looks like it is. I'm assuming. I'm trying to see if there's a free. Is there an open source version of it? Maybe I'm wrong. I feel like Zimbra was a company that had an open source one. I don't see it anymore. Downloads. Yeah, it needs a license key, so it's not like your normal open source. Yeah, I've not used it, so I don't really have an opinion on it. What's stirring you towards Pixel phones? And have you thought about using a folding one? No, the folding one seems too much. So yeah. I'm not big on the folding. I don't know. I have a few friends that have them. I don't know. I'm not so, I mean, they're kind of cool, I guess, but I feel I'm a little rough on phones, and I feel like I'd be a problem. It is a me problem. I don't want, I would, if you were here a minute ago, here, we'll just show this up. This is me and my friends riding in the sand. I feel like this is not an ideal environment for a folding phone. Just saying. So that's where I would have a problem. Okay, so Zimbra's dependent on very old Java JRE. Yeah, so this is a challenge for companies that have been around for a long time, or projects. If they're still based on a lot of that old stuff and no one's ever really refactored all the code, it can get a little ugly because there's modern, better ways to do it. All the stuff I was just talking about in Grist is like Python, and it's simple. That's why it's lightweight, it's fast, it zips away with thousands of records in it in real-time collaboration. And I don't see that with some of the really old stuff. It's just because that was the best way to build it when it was built for some of these older tools. But here in 2025, there are better ways to build it. And not everybody wants to do the heavy lift to refactor code to a more modern way. It is a thing. Yeah, hosting mail servers, man, that is a lot. If you had an XCP and fail, pool of one, and you had the storage and X-Way backups available, would you mount the storage on the new server or connect the new server to the backup and remote restore? If you have a pool of one and it has a catastrophic failure, so you have no backups or no resiliency to that server because there's not a second one, which means you're going to have to reload. In that scenario, I just reload one and point it at the remote and start restoring my VMs from the last good backup. That's generally an easy procedure to do. I don't have that many VLANs, so I don't worry about like trying to back up all the config of my XO. That, I mean, if it's a larger enterprise environment, for me, there's like 5 VLANs or 6 VLANs. So I'm going to save myself the time to type 6 VLANs out and set it up. But generally, if you have a server with a catastrophic failure, you're putting a different server in, so you can't necessarily restore exactly the config if it's like different network interface names, for example. If the network interface name is the same, yeah, you could restore a config. But kind of back to the thing, just pointing it at the remotes. That's, you set up the remotes. The remotes are where they store the backups. You grab it, and away you go. Open source doesn't mean much unless it's GPL or a license that prevents vendor lock-in or closed sourcing whenever they want. Yeah, it's saying it's open source. There's nuance to that, and you want to make sure you have a license that matches the nuance that you're looking for, so someone could fork it. You don't want, and I get why some companies, there's going to always be someone that says, but Tom, you should hate on this company for insert name of their license. And I get it. But I don't know a solution to that problem for some of those companies. And the whole example of, what was that company? I think it was all Elastic owned a lot of it, but it was because Amazon was screwing them over with Elasticsearch. They would make their money to fund their developers off of reselling hosting. Amazon started reselling hosting under them for undercutting them for cheaper. People would then go there, but then Amazon wasn't contributing back to the code. They were like, we're going to make money off this, and we're just going to use your code and make our money hosting like you do, but we're not going to pay developers and just make the money. Obviously that's not ideal for the open source world. So some of these companies make licenses that are a little bit more restrictive. I don't really know the answer to it. Well, yes, I do. I know exactly the answer to it. Amazon, you're worth $1 trillion or whatever that number is. I say billions, we're in the trillions now. Give back to the damn open source developers. That's the answer. That's not the answer they're doing. The same with Google and these other companies. For the amount of revenue they bring in, their contribution back, and it's a good number they do. I mean, they throw money at it, but it's looks good until you realize the kind of revenue they make. You're like, you guys could donate a lot more to open source and it would not hurt your bottom line. Maybe someone doesn't get their 3rd yacht this year. I don't know. I mean, their sacrifices might need to be, you can only have 2 yachts a year, not 3, but they could definitely afford to pump a little more money over into the open source world. Yeah, I feel the same way about the tech on the folding phones. It's just a little weird to me. I like the concept. This is a sci-fi concept for a long time that we can have curved screens. I have a curved screen next to me, but a curved screen that goes all the way. Well, now we got a problem like the middle, and it feels like, I know the technology is getting better and there's a little bit on there. Yeah. So yeah, donating millions is just a rounding error. That's in the couch cushions over at Google. There's like, oh, there's a few million, I don't know, look under the couch for it. Just, you know, grab it out of petty cash over there. It's only like 10 mil. I'm not a big tablet person. I liked the tablets when they first came out. There was a good use case for them because the laptops were not quite as thin and portable. Tablet was as cool in between. I liked it for games because tablet games are kind of cool, and I loaded some emulators on there. But yeah, I haven't used a tablet in a while. Yeah, the whole open source problem with them is just straight up greed. But talking about good open source things, let's stay positive and talk about how the world we want to be is over here at Zen Orchestra. There's a couple of things that people may be interested in. They've done another update. And I don't know if I should do videos on these or not. They don't get a lot of views because I know it's a little bit niche. Not everyone loves the XCP-ng. We use a lot of it. It's really popular in the business world. And it's got a good Homelab following. There's a really active community. But yeah, their new features include, and this is, I scrolled right past it. For those of you that work in the business world, how did I? There we go. Veeam closed beta started. So there is closed beta, but that means it's in progress. For those of you that going, hey, XCP-ng doesn't have full Veeam support. It's on its way. Fates and the team are working with Veeam to build this. So we are not in the beta right now. CNWR uses Veeam, but we are not in the closed beta. I think because that just got announced, I think probably people there might be reaching out to do that. I don't know. But still pretty cool that they're working on this. So for those of you that were hoping for more commercial integration, the other thing that they've been working on, there's a lot of things in here actually, fixing the backups and more features. And not fixing, I don't think they're broken. They just keep adding a lot more features on how they work and some of the functionality on there. There's lots of API updates. There we go. V2V. This is the other part that matters to a lot of people, especially people like my company, where we migrate lots of people. And I know many, many people doing this, getting off of the VMware world and onto the XCP-ng world. Lots of upgrades and speed migration to the V2V, getting people off of VMware. It's not been too hard. The license is kind of pushing people away. Anyways, the licensing costs are just crazy. But yeah, there's a few people that are a little like, we're sticking with it. But the migration is substantially faster now. Time to migrate minutes, so down from 25 minutes. What is that? So the same one took about, what was that, 2.5 minutes? So that's a pretty substantial increase to go from 25 minutes to about 2 minutes of transfer. Maybe it's 1 minute. Either way, it is a much smaller one. But yeah, I didn't update it. This came out today. I didn't update mine yet. I'll do it in the morning or at night. I'll sit down and update all my Zen instances. But lots of little stuff. I've been really just happy watching the Vates team, which, by the way, check your license. They do not want vendor lock-in. They keep everything open. They keep everything to the point where absolutely you could fork it. And they do that on purpose because they want the pressure on them to be a good company all the time. And if ever they're not a good steward of the project, well, grab the code and someone else can be a good steward of the project. I really like that. Yeah, there's a lot of movement in the EU around funding open source. I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called the Sovereign Fund. It's got a name like that. I remember hearing about it on one of the Linux podcasts I listened to. But yeah, awesome. I'm thrilled about that because that is definitely a great thing. Waiting for Linux Veeam agents for ARM64. Just realized they do not support ARM64 yet. I don't think we have anyone who's asked us for it, so I've never looked. I don't think we have anything ARM64 I want to back up with Veeam. Wonder how much influence Vates has on Veeam, Nutanix, and Proxmox support. Veeam seems lackluster by comparison. Well, I don't know all the details. I know what someone said, and I'm not the someone. And this person seemed to know things. It was a discussion I had with someone a while back. Was the way Zen is API driven made Veeam easier to integrate. So there could be that. I don't know. That you don't have the same type of APIs with KVM. Both Nutanix, I'm 99% sure, and someone correct me if I'm wrong on this, that Nutanix is just KVM under the hood, and obviously Proxmox is KVM under the hood. But my understanding was it is harder to integrate with the way KVM does it versus Zen has always been API driven, so it's easier just to connect to the API, talk to the VM, stream the data back and forth. I was told that's an easier thing to do in the Zen ecosystem than it is in the KVM ecosystem. Take that for what it's worth by a person at a Linux conference who seemed very knowledgeable on this. And I couldn't really, I've not built a backup tool for either one of these, so I don't know. Have you been keeping up with the work on QEMU from Teptis? I'm looking forward to the performance gain from it. Yeah, they've been plugging away at it. So yes, that is going to be a great update as well. I have not had time to try to UniFi Server OS yet. I did do, hold on, I'm going to pull something up because another topic I want to talk about. All right, I'll share it out in a second. I have a friend setting up a UniFi network at his at his home, and we talked about doing a site-to-site VPN in order for him to do off-site backups to my place, but I don't want to give him full access to my network. You should be able to create rules around that, so you can say this person can only access this thing on the other side of the network. Any recommendations you give for backup software for Linux or Ubuntu? I use, what is it called? Look at the name of it. The Deja Dupe. I don't know. I didn't want to get the name wrong. Deja Dupe. It's what I use. It works fine for me. Maybe it'll work fine for you. Deja Dupe's been around for a number of years. It's part of the Debian Ubuntu ecosystem. We need to build out an XCP&G server. What supplier is best to buy from? I think Supermicro makes a good product. I've been really happy with it, but there's other ones out there. Dell's really popular. I don't know if you're going used or new. Dell has been a good company for a long time because they just have so many good options out there in the used market. Like even the R640s might be maybe getting a little bit older, but they're still relevant overall. So there's a lot of good options, and Dell's easy to get parts for. Well, nobody wants a backup that works, and everyone wants a restore that works. Remember that. That's the important part, because green checkboxes on a backup doesn't mean it works. You only learn if they work by validating your restores. I'm not sure why the restore didn't work for you. I go through a restore process and I do validate it. I don't have any problems with it, but I don't know what all process or procedure you did. Now, one of the things I want to kind of side quest over to, because this was just something I brought up again, and I'm going to give you folks a link to this. And it's where I get the news. So this is Lawrence.video/cyber news. It just links you to my forum post on this topic. But the part I wanted to talk about, I've seen more people declaring, this has just been a pet peeve of mine. And I get it. And this is a Reddit post as well. And I was of the attitude, let's name and shame. Let's just call these people who are grifters that call themselves cybersecurity experts that you try to follow, that you really only learn, it's like a funnel into some class that doesn't give you any value. And that drives me crazy. And this is a discussion that pops up every now and then. So what I did was, first, I wrote a little thing here because I wanted to point out the telltale signs of the cybersecurity grifters rather than try, because it's a whack-a-mole game. For any cybersecurity grifter that's out there that you go, this person sucks, and let's name and shame them and tell people they shouldn't use this person because they suck. There's another one that just pops up because it's a lucrative market. And who knew the world of cybersecurity, where we talk about social engineering, a bunch of people wouldn't social engineer the way to making money. So let's talk about the tooling and thoughts around how to spot the grifters. And the first one's really easy. It's overemphasis on financial gain. Then the next one is lack of substantive, it's a hard word, content. Vague or over general promises, broad claims about teaching you everything without specifying curriculum. Focus on hype rather than information. I was seeing this the other day. Someone had a bunch of videos and I'm blah, 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 lots of followers. I go there and I don't understand. They don't have many views on their content. They do have a number at the top with a lot of followers. But the bigger thing is there's no content. The content is all this how I achieve things. It's like they really put this whole lifestyle thing of them on a boat, or more specifically, them on a yacht, them next to a fancy car, them on a beach. Look at my fancy cyber job that lets me work from a beach. And the lack of social proof is probably the other one. Vague backgrounds. I love when they claim their job was classified. There was a guy doing that at a conference that I was like, this guy's an idiot. But these are some of the things I always remind people. But I link to that also, not just because of the grifters, but also this is the news sources. A lot of people ask, hey, Tom, what podcast do you listen to? Hey, what about your OPML file? Well, that's here too if you want to dive into using an RSS reader, which also weird comment here that a lot of people, I don't understand. They said my fresh RSS video is 2 years old. Are you going to make a new one? I'm like, well, the software hasn't changed. Well, why not? I need one that's today. That one's from 2 years ago. And I was like, I don't understand. It does the thing. It doesn't need to do a new thing. It does. I mean, there's probably someone trying to integrate AI into it like they always are. So I think fresh RSS, for anyone that's wondering, is still what I use. I think it's great. You can self-host it and organize all your news. But yeah, that's definitely one of my favorite RSS readers. But just because it's older doesn't mean it's not still relevant here. But either way, this is a link I have for anyone that wants any of the stuff or where I get the news and where I pull cybersecurity and tech information from. This is the list. There's also a list on my website of just other creators I like. I specifically put the podcast here, but not all the other creators. But yeah, if you're just looking for, a few things to add to your news, or just, pulling in some data, I like RSS readers because they break the algorithm by not having one. You get to list everything. And by the way, if you use an RSS reader to pull a YouTube feed of all the people you like on YouTube, now you can avoid the algorithm there too. The algorithm I think it's too much emphasis on it. And these social companies, and I'll throw YouTube in the mix there as well, are all just not good anymore at necessarily understanding that you liked and subscribed to a person because you like the content they produce. And they're like, but let me show you the content over here and the content over here. And you're like, yeah, but I clicked the little button. Can I have a feed of that? And YouTube's got a way to see the feed, but it doesn't always pop up as much. So RSS readers are a good way to do that for sure. It's been around for a long time. It's been 10 years of running into cybersecurity grifters. They're not a new thing at all. And by the way, they're not new. Grifters, we have a term for them. That doesn't, grifter is applied to lots of people that are just grifters that are looking for ways to, here, buy my book of how to get rich. And that's how they're making money, is just writing some BS book about how to get rich type people. That's been around for a long time. But yeah, no, hopefully you're welcome. I hope this RSS feed list helps. I like giving it away to people to get started, because the problem is, if I told you, hey, use an RSS reader, that's not necessarily helpful, because you're like, oh, cool, it will read all these RSS files. Where do I get some RSS files? I mean, you start looking around, you're like, okay, maybe this one, maybe that one. But if you start with my list, and if you don't like things in my list, you start deleting, but you start with like, hey, these are a dozen sites or whatever. I don't even know how many are in there now. These are the ones Tom likes. Maybe I'll like them too. And then you go, no, I don't like this one. And you just start removing them, but then you find one later. Having a basis to start is really what I think is helpful to kind of keep you moving forward on that. Have you ran into people running Ceph RBD with XCP&G? I know you can install packages, but it's technically not supported. I don't know anyone running it. There was a discussion in the forums the other day, though. A lot of times people just use a connector to Ceph, as in instead of loading Ceph, they'll present iSCSI backed by Ceph. So they'll set up the Ceph system to present iSCSI, for example, over to XCP&G. So XCP&G doesn't need anything loaded. And now you have an entire back end backed by Ceph. So cool. You got the advantages of Ceph without having to load anything unsupported or special in XCP&G. There's been some forum posts on it. I generally am just using ZFS in TrueNAS. That's kind of my favorite combo. I have some Synologies as well, but using a TrueNAS plus XCP&G for an NFS share works great. It's easy. It's easy to maintain. It's easy to manage. iSCSI works. iSCSI is not thin provision, but there's like my business partner, Jason, has a lot of opinions on the thin provisioning. He's like, that just gets people in trouble. And he's not wrong. If you're not maintaining things and people aren't paying attention, thin provisioning's cool because I can over provision, but that's also the problem. If the VMs start growing and no one's babysitting the VMs and realizing they have an over provisioned server, they end up with a server out of memory or storage. And so those are challenges. And obviously, if you don't thin provision, you do something, you thick provision, which you can thick provision on, it's forced thick provisioning on iSCSI. So you just avoid that problem. I'm partial to NFS. I think there's, as far as I know, there's a NFS connector you can use with Ceph as well. One downside of Ceph, and this is a big performance hit, that doesn't have the same concept that you can do inside of ZFS of essentially lying about the writes. You know, ZFS has the ability to turn off synced writes. So it will tell the OS, oh yeah, we wrote this and committed it to the disk. You're good, even though it's still in the process of doing it. Sync writes in Ceph have to happen. And therefore, you have to make sure you have the right setup and the right performance and the right encoding and the right interconnects between the systems to get Ceph to perform well. 45 Drives has talked a ton about this. They've got a lot of information on our channel about it. It's not that you can't get Ceph to perform. It will perform. It just performs at a much higher cost than a standard ZFS system. So it's absolutely something that can be done. It just requires more hardware, faster hardware. Faster hardware is the way to do it. Do I have a video on my Linux journey, I think is what it's probably called. I feel like that's the name of that. NUXG. I thought this was what it's called. Cool. I'm going to drop. It says it's Linux has my desktop. That's the name here. So let me share for the people who are interested in this. But yeah, I do have a video on that. So hopefully that helps. But it's 15 years of Linux. I've been running a Linux desktop for a very long time. While using NFS, have you run into issues with VMs, specifically Linux, going read-only on HA failovers or something like TrueNAS HA? No. If you have a properly set up TrueNAS system for high availability, I have not run into any read-only issues. I've done demos on it. I find it to work very, very well. It's very, very stable. I'm not saying there's no edge case where something couldn't happen, but it's not been an issue. Yeah, Linux journey, more like uphill battle. My Linux desktop is not overly custom. I still run Pop! OS. I do run Ubuntu on my framework, but I might try Pop! OS on it. I just haven't. I got to reload it. Well, no, I'm going to swap the drive in it. It's got a good drive in there with Pop! OS on it or Ubuntu on it. I'm going to swap it, try Pop! OS, see if I like it or if it's any better. And if it's not, I'll just switch back to Ubuntu. I'll just pop that other drive in. I do like the framework laptop. Overall, it's definitely good. But I cover everything that's on my Linux system in that video for what I'm running on the desktop. Windows just feels so weird and clunky to me. It has been a long time since I've run. I mean, I take that back. I have Windows in a VM for special use cases that require Windows in a VM, but that's it. I had too much hardware with open source drivers. This is my issue besides stupid NVIDIA card. I don't. Oh, I turned off the computer, so it blinked. I'm here. I don't know. I don't find that to be the issue that much anymore. So I don't run into many hardware compatibility issues with it. I do run Windows though on my media computer, we'll call it. And the only reason why is because OBS Studio seems to work really well with it. And so does the Stream Deck. I haven't looked in a while. If the Stream Deck has caught up with functionality with Linux, I will reload that system because I'd rather it run Linux. But as I understand it right now, it is not. And the Stream Deck and probably something else I'm using. I got a couple different devices plugged in. But I mean, I'm in a niche of content creation. So yeah, if you're doing some Elgato stuff, you may run into issues because it doesn't have native Linux support. At least I don't think it does. I haven't looked at it lately. It sounds like someone else says, no, it doesn't. Hard to say. And there's also Excel, your Microsoft Office apps, if you're using them. I use everything in a web browser. And I was talking earlier about Grist. So I'll pull that up again real quick. But I like spreadsheets in a browser, just kind of makes sense to me. Like that seems like, I don't know, a better way to do it because the data is all just saved right in here. I don't know. I do use LibreOffice a little bit. I do have some documents in LibreOffice. A lot of my day is not spent in spreadsheets in general, web or local or documents. I would probably say I do I script like the intro. I don't script my whole videos, but I script the intro. So I might put that in a document. Mostly I just type it right into the teleprompter. That's my writing tool. The teleprompter will let me know if something's misspelled, but I will probably still say it correctly, even if it's misspelled. So it doesn't matter too much. You're a Windows user, and to be honest, the AI made the transition to Linux pretty easy. I'm not in IT, so that's just an easy way for me. Yes, there is a tool, and I think this still exists. I think it's called Gemini Studio, and it can be very handy. It's a way to let Google Gemini, via like a screen share, see your screen and walk you through things. I should probably do a video on how to, maybe it might be a fun one. It's a great way to learn because you can talk to Google Gemini and go back and forth and go like, hey, how do I do this? It'll walk you through the settings or walk you through how to get to something. I was using it to find out how to do something in my editor. And I thought that was kind of a fun thing. It was like having someone with you to walk you through the steps. It's definitely pretty cool. What's your option on using ZFS consumer NVMe SSDs? I want to use them for application at Homelab. I don't think there's any problem using ZFS on consumer NVMe SSDs. You're not going to get the longevity in general off of those compared to the, commercial ones, but that's true no matter what file system you run. True NAS ZFS trim. There is a setting. Let me find there's auto trim. There we go. Has been around for a few years. So if you're running over the last few years, this is at least a forum post about it all the way from 2022. So at least I can't remember when they added it, but they do have the auto trim features. It's in there. You just check the box that, hey, I'm using these. I think it detects, probably in a modern version, it can detect that you're using it, but it's just a checkbox. Oh, Gris is amazing. I found it some months ago. It's a wonderful balance between spreadsheet and DB. Yeah, that's what I said. It's just, I've been playing with it. Is really cool. And it has an API, so you can do you can just like build things on it and integrate other things with it. I think it's really cool. I would use M365 in a browser. I have to switch using the web app for a month now. I do have, because CNWR uses Office 365, so I don't do much spreadsheets ever. Once in a while, someone will send me one. I may have to view, but for the most part, it's just checking Outlook on the CNWR side. Web UI, my TrueNAS rocks, and no creepy tech on my searches. Hey, Tom's greetings from the Caribbean. Do you connect your UPS to TrueNAS? I tried recently with Peanut, and it worked. That's cool. I'm going to do that eventually. I just never got around to it because I don't worry about it. Like, I can just yoink the cable out and TrueNAS will not very gracefully shut down. But also, ZFS is so solid, I don't overly worry about it. I did have a power outage the other day. I had 2 of them. And the same day, I thought about it going, well, I have about a 25-minute runtime from when the power went out until the batteries went out. I shut them down the first time. I was like, I don't know if the power's coming back, because it was they were fixing something from a storm. So I went through the process shutting them down. Then the power came back on, and I was like, cool, power's back on. Booted everything back up. Batteries, though, not fully charged because power was only up for an hour. And by coincidence, someone whacked into the telephone pole after they fixed power in my neighborhood. Someone took out the pole, and then the process started over again, but it took longer because they crashed. Where did that thing go? I took a picture of it because I was just like, wow. When did I lose power? I've also lost the photo. I probably deleted it. I purge stuff once in a while. Oh no, there's the photo. For anyone that just wants to know what that looks like, because it's, yeah. A truck went and just took out the power lines, and then I didn't have power no more. So that was the thing. The catch with consumer SSD was the case. If you didn't do trim right, you get issues. Well, if you don't do trim, you do more rights than you need to. I have a lot of videos to look forward to. We're going to be finishing up, me and Mike, with Railstream. We're going to be finishing up we got like a list, and we met yesterday to sit down and start setting dates to make the list happen. Some of them are probably going to happen next week. We're going to go over how he moves 700 terabytes a month through his servers, and how he shuffle around a few petabytes of files over the Railstream system. It's actually really cool. We've been gathering stats, but we want to show you the hardware, how it's set up, how it's used. And this is all just TrueNAS and things like that. So this is all stuff you can do. What type of network traffic is best practice to put on its own interface? Do you trunk all the traffic and segment out VLANs? Do you like some traffic to have its own physical interface? Because the physical layer is shared, even with VLANs, you generally, if you want the best performance out of your storage, you want that to be dedicated to a physical interface. So you'll build your network interfaces for interfacing with data, maybe the applications if you're running them on your system, but having a separate dedicated NIC for storage, it's separate. It runs on its own network. Matter of fact, if you are really setting this up in a larger environment, you want a dedicated switch for storage, or if you're doing MC lag, a pair of them. And what this does is separates it physically, but also you build policies around it. It's in critical path, which means all these things in critical path, like a switch, you don't necessarily want them updated on the same time you update any other switch, because you can deal with the minor inconvenience of a firmware update on a switch. Yeah, we lost a few moments of connection to our application. You don't like necessarily loading a firmware update that may take a little while on a critical path infrastructure switch, like your storage switch. So you can treat them differently, segment them off. It also, from a security standpoint, lock it all down and keep it all separate. So yeah, that ideally is what you'd want to do. I do have a separate storage network. I am running it as a VLAN because I don't have any performance needs that exceed the 10 gig connectors. So I have 25 gig connectors to my XCP-NG host and 10 gig connectors to my TrueNAS host. So because I'm not bottlenecked in any way, because it's just my network, it's not a problem. But if you want to build something and you have performance needs, it would be best practice to do that. Still working on Dockage and TrueNAS. Not really. I didn't like Dockage and TrueNAS. So I haven't really played with it lately. I don't know. It feels like I just moved everything to a single Docker instance because I think that's just a better way to do it. I have that Docker instance mounting my TrueNAS because that seems to be, I don't know, my preferred way to do it. I may do a video on that as a topic, though, because how I set up Docker and ways to set up Docker and manage Docker seems to be points of contention with people not knowing how to do it. And I've also realized some people do it different. And maybe my different is a different that makes you happy, or maybe you'll think my way is wrong and someone else's way is right. But hey, why not? We'll throw the ideas out there. Using any certain LSI HBAs with the RZAT trim issue. Yeah, I don't know. Is there any solution for using turbo frequency under virtualization? I tested Nostalgia VM, Proxmox, and VMware, no luck, reporting breaks frequency on host. I think that is not something that works well in the virtualization. There's just not a good way to get that information from inside the hypervisor to the processor. I'm not exactly sure. Not exactly sure. It's not something I've spent a lot of time researching. What didn't you like about Dock? I thought Dockage was cool, but I just feel like it's going around the TrueNAS interface feels weird. Like I don't know how well that will survive updates or breakage that may come from like patch levels. That's mostly why I avoided it. I feel like you're trying to put a Band-Aid on it. But then again, if you're constrained and you don't have a separate place to run things, maybe that's, not a bad idea to do it. But it is also just something of concern of making sure you've got a process by which you could get everything back up and running and making sure you're storing all the configs. Maybe I got to look closer at it. But yeah, I run all that separate. So it's not Dockage. It's the going around the TrueNAS UI to run more things on the back end felt a little weird to me. Yeah, you can. I don't use Ansible to manage my Docker, but a lot of people do. And I don't have that advanced of a Docker setup. In your opinion, is there any alternative to MS Active Directory, especially for MSPs? Today, probably not. Tomorrow or some near future, I think things like Authentic may become more popular. But in today, the problem you run into is so many people, and the majority of our clients, with some exceptions, are using Office 365 or have a need for it. If they have a need for Office at all, you may as well just tie them into Active Directory. But we do have a few clients that are top to bottom Google. And Google is another alternative and also supports single sign-on. You can tie your authentication to it and have it be your identity provider. So there's the two options that are going to be the most popular because it's not yet practical from a management standpoint, especially when it comes to emails. If you have to manage email, you're just going to want to be either in the Office 365 or Google environment. I'm partial to Google. That's what I use because Google doesn't need a whole, extra spam filtering. I just have Google without extra spam filtering, and it finally, because I can't remember which we're using. I think we're using Checkpoint at CNWR now. It's taken a long time for, like, you have to buy the Office 365, then you got to buy an add-on for spam filtering, versus Google is like, yay. Well, Entra ID is the same as like Active Directory. It's the annual, let's change our name because this is what justifies the marketing department's spend. Like, hey, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna swap names of things. Are we changing functionality, folks? No, we're just gonna call it something different. Why not? Let's call it Entra ID. But doesn't everyone notice someone else? Well, so it's it's how it works. It's is what it is. Oh man. What else was I had a thought in my head of something else I want to share, and I can't remember what that was now. Oh, I think it was some of the Docker stuff. I do like talking. I'm using Homer, HOMARR. These are some of the things I'm hosting in here. But this is pretty cool right here. If you haven't used What Up Docker. Oh, look, I got Docker things to update. This is kind of a cool tool. It's just WUD, and I can have it refresh. But it'll pull up and go, yeah, you got things you have to update in Docker. So I need to update Dozzle, Fresh RSS. There's, of course, someone that's going to say, why aren't you just running Watchtower, which will auto update? You could do that too. Watchtower is a pretty popular Docker plugin that will update the other Dockers. I just like to update things manually. I don't know. I like doing it. It's fun. It's like, oh, look, there's updates. There's ways you could build hooks into this to make the updates happen. But back to some of the other things I run though, and I'll talk. Maybe I'll do a dedicated video about my Docker stuff. But I have my speed tester, my Nginx proxy manager, Dozzle. Dozzle's really neat. Dozzle will let you. I mean, find what it's. Yeah, there's not much in here. Dozzle lets you view logs. We can look at all the logs here for this, or I've opened. Oh, yeah, so I got open Web UI. But I like it because you can just easily click through and look at the logs if you haven't played with it. It's pretty neat. CyberChef, IT tools. I can't remember I don't think I did a video on all the things I run. No, I've never had any use case for Arch. There's nothing about it that made me think I should be using it. Free IPA on the Linux end does things like AD, but that's a lot of Frankenstein. That it is. It's not easy to manage. I don't think it's a great idea. Yeah, I run all my Docker is running over here. So this is my one system running Docker that doesn't need too much CPU, doesn't nearly use all the memory for all the things it runs. And this runs all my things for Docker. I'm simple like that. It also means I have backups. I can see the backup history of it. I can just run it right now and run a backup job on my Docker whenever I want. I can restore it if there's ever a catastrophic failure. The backups are synced off site. So once again, even more catastrophic than a server, if something happens to the physical space I'm in to where I cannot recover things. Yeah, it's all just one Docker to restore. Homer's the best, but their updates break icon size often. I haven't experienced that in any of my updates, but I don't know. I do think the icons look kind of big. They're kind of weird, but I don't know. They work. I can click on all the things. So you'd love a Docker setup tour. So more votes on Docker setup. I can do that. I'm amazed you can show all your stuff without doxing yourself or showing security holes. Well, doxing myself, I'm not a really hard person to find if you're doing OSINT. So it is what it is. Security holes, there's always security holes. I don't really know. Like, I don't publicly expose all this stuff, so it's not of great concern to me. There's no ports open on my firewall because I don't need them. So I mean, you know what I have, and this is a weird one to me because a lot of people are strange about this in a way that I don't completely understand. They don't ever want to show the MAC address of things. And I share my MAC address. I don't know. I guess the threat model is, I mean, I understand it to an extent that if I were to show the MAC address of my system, you're like, oh, I know the MAC address of Tom's system, and there's probably rules around his IP address and the IP address assigned to him based on that MAC. So if I were to physically get on his network, I could clone his MAC address. But if you're physically on my network and at my house, well, there's our first problem. So it's less of a concern to me. I guess it's a bigger concern in large corporate environments where if you had more MAC information, you're like, cool, I have all these things. But honestly, outside of like state sponsored levels of espionage, I don't think it's a usual threat vector. I can't remember too many times reading through any differ reports where, yeah, if they wouldn't have exposed their MAC address, we would have never got into this system. I mean, I'm sure for like high security facilities where you're physically doing an engagement or, red team engagements, that's good information to have. But for my lab, I don't think it is too much. Most of the stuff is being attacked right now is going to be identity-based attacks. That's where the real challenge is. And when an identity-based attack is, usually you want to know what credentials I'm using and what that second factor is for one of the targeted assets I have, like my YouTube channel. And people do try to figure that out. And I don't even, I have that all separated out to even the ownership of it is separated out in pieces to try to build walls around to make it harder to get to. If you have a pool with 3 XCP-ng nodes and they all lose quorum, how would you fix that? Broke a test pool where they do not seem to be talking to each other. I have a video on that. It's a tips and trips guide, and it walks you through how to bring one back in to quorum. You have to have a master, and you just resync the other ones to it. But there's a process there's documentation in the XCP-ng documentation on how to fix it. I think it's in a troubleshooting guide, and I made a video showing how to fix it, showing the commands that you run. I use Watchtower to auto update anything I don't deliberately exclude. It's great. Yeah, I might switch to it just so things get updated automatically, but yeah. Is 3-2-1 backup always need to be followed? I'm in kind of a place I need to create a big NAS for a company. If I want to do 3-2-1 backup, like 4x more expensive, do you do that for every company? Yes, pretty much. We are going to have in Veeam for the business. Let's talk about the business side. For the business side, yes, we're going to have Veeam running on a client that also we have local storage. So we have the client's data. We have it copied locally. That way we can restore it quickly. And then we back it up to, we have our own colo. So our stuff sits in a colo and it gets replicated. So we have redundancy there as well. So that we do that for each client. Yes, it's expensive. But the cost of losing data turns out to be more expensive. It's a lot of risk, and it depends on your risk tolerance. Can you only skip the local backups and only use the cloud? Sure, but it's going to take a lot longer to restore. But if you factored that in and that's where the budget is, then that's where the budget is. I will back up to your budget is usually kind of what I've jokingly told people. But in reality, is with the customers, they always go, okay, this is worth it to have these local copies because no one wants to be down for that long. NetBird on pfSense. Have you checked that out yet? Not yet. On my to-do list. Speaking of AIM, running on a Linux server will be supported in v13. What do you feel about that? Happy. I'm not a Windows fan, so more things that run on Linux is happier stuff. If I set up my Homelab with XCPG and decide to switch to Proxmox in the future, it would be easy to transition. There's no one either way, whether it's Proxmox to XCPG or XCPG to Proxmox. I don't think, and I haven't spent a ton of time on this, I don't know that there's any direct conversion to them. So you may have to use whatever backup utility. I like, what is that one called? I've done a video on it. Clonezilla. Took me a second to remember the name. Clonezilla is a probably easiest way to migrate between the two. And you can you can have Clonezilla export into a file that does good backups of Linux. So I love that the website still looks the same after all these years. But that's one of the options, using whatever backup utility, because there's not any direct that I know of. Maybe there's someone may have wrote a converter. I haven't Googled enough for it. Oh, yeah. Norton Ghost. We all loved Norton Ghost if we were in that tech era. Yeah, Norton Ghost was great. This is Norton Ghost of Past. Ghost is marked as an OS operating system deployment tool. It is a capture and deployment environment, requires Windows PE boot environment. I was hoping for, hold on. Got to find a good image of it. I like this version here. Oh, good. Someone has actually a video on it. I love this is the OG one. This is from forever ago. Oh, RescueZilla. That's right. I forgot about that. I haven't looked at RescueZilla in a while. Yeah, back when Norton Ghost was good. Let's look up RescueZilla. When is the last? I'm just curious when the last update to this was. About. I hate when there's no dates. Oh, okay. We can look in their GitHub. Oh, this is good news. It's still active. Old Norton Ghost. It was like the go-to for my dad's systems. Yeah. Yeah, it was, I think all of us used it. It was like the first utility that was like, this is just great. We're just going to Norton Ghost this. Can you import QCOW into XKPG? I am not sure. I think I remember seeing someone told me someone had a write-up on doing conversions. I've never done them. So I don't know how well that works at all. Is it part of your toolkit from 01 to 06 or so? Yeah. It's crazy to think, man. That's like 20 years ago now. So 20 years ago, that was a popular tool. I watched your network patch cord cable video talking about thin or thick cable patch cords. I switched my patch cords to the thin cables. Thanks for the info. Really makes life easier. And they look a lot nicer. I do like all the thin cables. There's a myth out there still from some people think they won't work, but they work fine. They're able to carry the voltage. It's just strange that it took a while, I guess, before the manufacturing co-ops start making these thinner cables more practical. All right, so someone says they've had success. So your last conversion from KVM to XCPG, you found a way to convert the convert with the KVM QEMU toolkit. So it sounds like there's options out there. Oh, Norton Ghost, Image Systems with Parallel Port and Laplink. There's going back some days there. Now that we're talking some retro with Laplink. Yeah, Laplink. Boy, I ain't seen that. Let me Google that one there. Going down memory lane now. Laplink PC Mover. That was from forever ago. PC migration software developed by Laplink as a success. Yeah, Laplink software successor 2005. So, yep, same era. Do an image search. They had USB ones later. Let's find a parallel port one. Matter of fact, I wonder how many people. This will gauge the age of the audience here. Who knows what a parallel cable is, and which pins are in them or not in them? Hey, almost missed the live stream. Yeah, you missed us talking about Railstream and that we're going to be doing videos. I'm going to put dates on our projects for next week so we can record and get that out there for the crowds. They want to see how it works. Done VirtualBox to KVM and XCPG, same toolkit, and it's fast, absolutely. Partition magic, yep. Oh, do it with a zip drive. Parallel share, not sure any of that does anymore. It's been a long time. So serial will only use 9 pins. Even if it had a 25-pin connector, the serial was only using 9 pins, whether it was a DB9 or DB25. Parallel used all the pins. So the parallel version always needed to use all the pins or it wouldn't work. It didn't. I don't think you needed a crossover cable at all with the parallel. I believe it was always straight through. Oh, double space. Yeah, so there's all kind. I love all the old cabling stuff. It is interesting. Now I'm curious what this is. Oh, someone's got a whole write up on this. Oh, this is fun. Animations. I like when I find a random website like this. This is just cool. What is this? What else does this person have? My free BSD. What was this one titled? File transfers via parallel port on a DOS using Laplink. Oh, we can look for all the DOS tags. Cool. Now, we're all distracted together, right? Changing color and cycling effects in DOS. All right. That's fun. Oh, the good old days of simplicity. I'm wandering off topic. Have you ever played with systemd and spawn? Nice way to run containers without installing extra software. I have not. Yeah, lap link was the best solution out there for about 10 minutes or so. Yeah. 10 minutes in the past, but I mean it was a number of years that it was popular. I was always a Norton Ghost person. Norton Ghost was where it's at. Oh, how to set up the config.sys to load local drivers into the high memory area. Yes. I wonder how much of that I can remember. If I sat down and I had the editor pulled up, how much could I do? Hey, Tom, remember something you predicted back in the day about the rise of the trade? I was at a friend's house working on her UniFi stuff, and her daughter asked me to show her how to build a cable. Oh, cool. Yeah, printers generally use parallel ports. That was your labeled LPT1. It still exists in a few manufacturing places, more than I'd like to admit. Printers had those parallel ports, and I want to say they were pink. Not they varied in color. I don't think there was any consistency. Later, I know like they started color coding them, but they were all just in the earlier days one color. Then motherboard manufacturers got clever and said, "Well, why don't we color code the plastic?" And it wasn't anything. I don't think it was an IEEE or any official standard. They just kind of said, we're going to make the plastic this way. High mem and DOS games. Come on, RS 485 and old RS 499. There we go. Those were some massive ones. Yes. You require 570 kilobytes of free conventional memory to launch Rebel Assault 2. Oh, that was a good game. That was a good game. See, that's when games were really good. Chris gets it. I I I'm not, maybe I should get into it more. I love emulating games. So I have lots of, the Nintendo and Sega, etc., old stuff, but now I want to play Rebel Assault. And I yeah, DOS emulation. All right. Now the gears are turning. It'll be my winter project. I lost track of someone. And I bring this up because, and if you were that someone, reach back out to me. They were in Michigan here, and they were talking about they have about every couple months a retro game meetup of them playing old DOS games, and they all meet in person so they can do a LAN party from like the early 2000s type of LAN party. And I'm like excited about that. There were standards back then, but I don't think there were standards on the colors. Oh yeah, King's Quest, Conquest. King's Quest I played. I don't think I played the other ones. I was never into those type of games much, though. I like a more story-driven game now. Maybe it's because of the gray hair, but the action games are where it was at for me. You still got the discs. All right. Wing Commander. There's another one. Yeah, Nintendo may be in the chat. I think, and I don't keep up with all the legalities of it all. I think Nintendo only cares if it's a production game. And because the NES is so far out of production, they just don't pursue it. Because what are they really accomplishing by stopping people from playing games they own? And I, still have my old Nintendo games around here somewhere. And I don't really want to try to, I mean, there are adapters that will take the RCA output and convert it to HDMI so it's compatible with a modern TV, but honestly, that's not practical. Ooh, yes, setting your Sound Blaster card in the IRQs and solving IRQ conflicts. Plug and play. I remember plug and play was plug and pray for a long time. I never thought, I didn't say never. I really thought the technology would probably, maybe I did say never. I'll admit it. I didn't think that was ever going to catch on. I was like, this is just broken. This is stupid. Plug and play doesn't work. They're never going to get it right. I mean, they eventually got it right. It just took forever to get it right. Zach McCracken. Haven't heard of that one. Leisure Suit Larry, yeah, that was an infamous game for sure. Wing Commander 1, Star Wars TIE Fighter, yeah. Duke Nukem, that was a great game. I have a lot of hours in Duke Nukem with multiplayer on dial-up. We used to, or we'd call each other and then we'd dial to each other so we could play games against each other. One thing we still have is printers maybe off of the printer port, but printers are still kind of a pain in the butt. I actually think the older ones work better. Printers have not improved as much as they could have. They just kind of got so far, and I think they're on the decline, especially because with no one printing, they're trying to figure out how to make more money out of them. It's not a printing. You're not selling you a printer. They're selling you an ink consumption device with a subscription. Yeah, playing on the dial-up modem. Mom picks up the phone. Yes, that's a problem. Oh, man. I will tell you, this is the printer. If you have one now and you got one with the network interface in it, you can still use it and it will still work. I don't care if it's 20 years old. Go on eBay, buy a roller kit for it, replace the rollers, they're cheap, and it will just keep printing forever. That is going to like survive the end of time. Yeah, you are 100% right. It was the best, the HP LaserJet 4. That series of it, not just the 4L, but I think there were a couple variations, but yeah, they just worked. I kind of felt bad. I just don't print anything, so I couldn't justify keeping it. I finally got rid of it. But yeah, I had it forever. And only because I don't print anymore that I finally decided I probably don't need it. We can certainly have established Tom has a lot of old timers that follow him. 100%. All of you know what parallel ports are. We started with Docker. We've regressed to parallel ports, but that's okay. I'm all right with this. Trip down memory lane. Oh, you had to factory reset one of those subscription HPs and had to talk support to reconnect to a customer's account just to print, just to turn it back. Yeah, it is insane how bad they've made them. Emu Deck is fantastic for emulation. It's a wizard that sets up all the emitters in a couple minutes. Just put your legally dumped ROMs in the BIOS, and where you go. Yep. I think I'm using RetroArch on mine. I have one of the Android-based ones. What is that called? The Retro Pocket 2. It works great. Jane question, have you ever successfully virtualized old industrial PCL type PC system with a PCI parallel port passed through the OS? Yes. It's been a while since I've had to do that. There's one of them still, I'm sure it's still running. We had to do something similar to finagle some really old printing press equipment, and it had to run a really old version of VMware, and it's just a mess, but it worked. No one makes the stuff for printing presses anymore. And this was for a newspaper company that still prints newspapers, and they can't afford to buy new machines. So we helped them a couple times fix some of their really old, weird machines and weird equipment. Yeah. HP, we'll just say, is a terrible, terrible company. The most expensive liquid in the world, I believe, as someone put it, most expensive liquid that you can buy without some specialized permits, I believe, is still ink by far. It is some of the most expensive liquid. There are expensive liquids that you can't just go buy. I mean, I'm sure there's all kinds of, things that require specialized permit, but when it comes to like commercially available or non-commercially consumer available type things, printer ink is expensive. Once had a master printer for a random company. It was a really good old printer. Unfortunately, there was no Linux Win 10 driver, and he needed to use Win 7. Yeah. Fun times. HP is terrible. HPE is just a different terrible. Jeff from Craft Computing has a good video on this. He went through all the BIOS stuff that's stuck behind paywalls. Like, why are your firmware updates stuck behind paywalls? I don't know which ones HPE does or doesn't because it's confusing. Jeff from Craft Computing made a video on it. And I mean, the video is older, so it may not cover newer models, but there's a reason there's not a ton of used HPEs in the market because they have weird licensing rules around the hardware. And it's like, if you bought the hardware, why do I have license rules around the hardware of getting updates for it? Like, if there's a firmware update, just give me a firmware update like Dell does. But no, HP's like, we have to build paywalls around these things. Oh, yeah. The hardware dongles for the software licensing. Most expensive liquid that won't get you on a list. Hey, how's it going there? Glad to catch a stream. The most expensive liquid is the one that causes kids. Yes. That's a whole different thing. Yes. Actually, someone pointed out that on that same topic, we're wandering off the beaten path here, but apparently thoroughbred horses, a horse stud is worth they produce some extremely expensive liquid. All right, we're off that topic now though. Did you ever really make a mistake in a company? Infrastructure is really good advice inside these stories. Did you ever have a really big mistake on company infrastructure? Yes. I have absolutely rebooted stuff that should not have been rebooted when I rebooted it. So I will I just was looking at the wrong server and I caused an outage. That was a hard lesson to learn. Happened, let me think, that was right around 2018. It was my server at my company, but I shut down my company it took almost 10 minutes for it to boot. So yeah, well, 10 or 15 because I was rebooting something and to get everything caught back up and everyone back to work. Because everyone's like, hey, this went down. Did it go down for you? Everyone in office like, went down for me too. And then I realized when everyone's saying everything went down, I'm like, I think I'm the cause of this because I just looked at the server I'm rebooting. I'm like, I didn't mean to reboot that one. Good news, the server is updating. Bad news, it's updating right now. Yes, the paywall updates are for the sake of the shareholders. It makes them happy. You once rebooted a domain controller in my company at the same time and took us down for 8 hours. Woo, yeah. Yeah. It's not just a mistake, it's an opportunity to introduce HA clustering. Absolutely. Okay, so EmuDeck uses RetroArch for most systems, but you use emulation station as a front end or have it scan an ad for each system. Cool. Yeah. So it's one of those learning lessons when you break an setup like this, you have Active Directory and it's all in sync, and then it breaks, and you're like, oh, I'll just restore from last night's backup. But that can be a problem if the Active Directory servers now have two different sources of truth. You're going to cause a mess. NTFS permissions adjustment on a major folder of a file server, but applied it recursively by accident. Yeah, that's a thing. 18. See, that's an impressive number of servers to break. It all starts with one, but it also shows the fragile nature because someone did something wrong and you shouldn't be able to break all 18 at once. There's a problem with the resiliency of that setup. Is Bearded IT did arguing against centralization of DNS resolution inside the AD fabric, or is it often better to diagnose DNS and handle with a separate group of systems? Oh, that's a whole nother discussion. Now, ideally, DNS is something that can be built with a level of resiliency. That's how most of the internet works, and it runs on bind more than anything else. So the internet runs with a great deal of resiliency around DNS. It's one of the protocols that's really easy to have resiliency, but Microsoft, not known for resiliency. And if you get Active Directory servers out of sync, you're just going to have a bad time. You took down a main switch once by unplugging a random unmanaged switch and not knowing it sat between the firewall router and the network. Yeah, that's definitely a problem. This screwdriver I've had for, I'm trying to think now, about 30 years, a little longer. Yeah, roughly 30 years. 30-year-old screwdriver. It's been my favorite. The favorite screwdriver I have, though, I was putting it in a case. And if you remember, let's see how we go down memory lane here. Hold on. Wow, there's a lot of tabs open. Let me close all these. Old computer power switch. See if I can find the right image of this, because I don't think people realize how it used to work. Trying to find a picture of it, because I zapped it. Yeah, I'm not really finding it. I found the era of the cases. But they're old power supplies in these old computers before they were momentary contact switches. They had 120 run inside. It's similar to this. There we go. That's the type of switch. So they're 120 volt switches for AT power supplies. And the floppy is on the same side on a lot of the cases, like this one. On the other side, the power would be there. This is a newer one, so it's not exactly the same, but you get the concept. And I stuck the screwdriver in to try to unscrew the floppy, and it went between those pins. And I blew up an entire bench of stuff because that screwdriver hit the pins just right. I know I should have turned it off, but I didn't. So that's the thing that happens sometimes. Yeah, the ATPSUs. Yeah, I was very cautious. I mean, I've mentioned before, I used to do like RS-6000 and database stuff. Man, forever ago. It was pretty cool, though. I was lucky for all the database migration and larger, tedious work I did on those. I never had anything catastrophic happen. I mean, we had stuff fail, but we never had anything cause irrecoverable damage. Like, we're not fixing this. We're reaching for the backups. I never had to do any major, backup restore. The turbo buttons. So I've been really blessed on any of the incidents I've been involved in. Zapping thing. I zapped myself, blew circuits, and caused disruption in the office. Yeah. So there's I've been happy that none of these have resulted in me having to go completely bare metal and go, all right, we have a real issue here. I mean, I've had server failures that definitely had to be replaced, but they weren't because I did something. They were just, it was just time for them to let the magic smoke out, and the magic smoke came out. You're only 2 years into networking and IT, so much to learn. Yeah. Luckily, it's just a small business, so only HQ went down. First IT job. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. I think I have. Do I have any? No, probably not. Do I have a picture of the RS6000? Does it know what an RS6000 is? I doing a Google image search. Yeah, whatever. In other news, this is going out in our social feeds. For those of you that would like to, let me find it. Oh, it's probably on YouTube. That's an easy place. I didn't even realize the thumbnail they use. I think this is great. So let me share this. The Art of Network Engineering. And let me throw this in here. But I was on that podcast, The Art of Network Engineering. I'll show you the thumbnail. I thought I had it pulled up. So fun stuff. But yeah, I did this interview. It was fun. This is a great podcast. They have a artofnetworkengineering.com podcast. Oh, you listened to that episode the other day. Awesome. Yeah, I enjoyed being on the show. It was great. I listened to it and realized I said something wrong earlier in it. I said a flyback was an inverter. Technically, it's a step-up transformer. This is a weird thing when you listen to it. You're like, why did I say that? And I don't know. There's probably a comment on the video where someone's complaining. Tom didn't know what a flyback was. The art. Doesn't really know electronics. So yeah, definitely. If you're looking for more stuff to listen to, just in general, I've had their podcast on my podcast list for a while. So I think they do some great interviews with a lot of people. It's a good network engineering podcast. A lot of good insights are shared over there. But yeah, go ahead and give them a like and subscribe on their YouTube channel. Give them a listen on wherever you get your podcast from. But I'm going to wind this down here. This has been a wonderful 1 hour and 42-minute live stream with everyone. So thank you all for joining. This was definitely a great time, as always. I loved all the questions. I love the trip down memory lane and learning that all of you are roughly the same age as me, or at least a handful of you are that commented on things. So, but hit me up in the forums, hit me up on the socials at lawrencesystems.com. There's a variety of ways to get in touch with me. Always like hearing from all of you, and I do reply to the messages I get for those of you that have reached out. So feel free to reach out. And I'm going to go touch grass, go spend a few minutes outside and enjoy my time out there. So thanks again, everyone. And see you next week for sure. And if I have time in between, I've been thinking about, leave comments on this. Should I do more live streams? I thought about doing them during the week a couple more times because I just enjoy all of it. But I don't want to annoy people with too many live streams because I used to do more. And then people said it's annoying I do more. You can't win. But you all stayed with me, so let me know if it's winning. Thanks, everyone. Take care.